In my home state of Texas, the education agency is considering for certain elementary school curriculums or curriculi, is that correct? Replacing the word slavery with involuntary relocation. Not a joke. Let's read. From CBS, Texas education officials are considering a change in the way slavery is taught to second graders, replacing the word slavery with involuntary relocation in state standards. Whoops. The Texas Education Agency, which is responsible for setting curriculums and statewide student assessment testing, has multiple work groups that draft curriculums for each subject and grade. When the agency presented the idea to use involuntary relocation at a recent state board of education meeting, board member Ika Davis said she was not okay with that at all. Davis shared a clip from the meeting on Facebook. This is from her. Quote, "There's a viral post stating that the Texas Education Agency is trying to change the word slavery to involuntary relocation in Texas history standards." She wrote in the caption of the video, "Sadly, there is some truth to that statement. They were looking at some trade books that exist and kind of talking about how you would explain to second graders that a lot of people got to this country in very different ways and for very different reasons. Some of which, oh my God, I'm laughing, but this is terrible. Some of which were voluntary and some were not. I think the very best way to address that was what they were struggling with," the agency member said. We're going to keep this slide up for a second here because what? Your reasoning for replacing the word slavery with involuntary relocation is because, second graders need to understand that a lot of people got to this country in a lot of different ways. Some of them voluntary, some of them involuntary. I'm sorry, but involuntary as a second grader would have sounded like totally fine. Voluntary, involuntary, teach, I don't know what you're saying, but it sounds like everyone was excited to come to America. But as we understand, the word slavery, even for the youngest people, has weight, has moral baggage to it, as it should. And that's why we use the word slavery, because it's only used in one context: people owning other people. Involuntary relocation sounds like you got evicted or something. Or it was like, hey, I know that you wanted to go to Australia, but we're sending you to America instead. Apologies. No. What we're talking about, and of course the graphic details don't necessarily need to be introduced in second grade, but the weight and importance of these topics do. The reality is that people were forced in chains to come to America, owned by other people, raped, abused, killed, and obviously used for their labor forcefully. That's what we're talking about. And so glossing over it in this nice cutesy language that makes it sound like a unexpected trip or something is completely not appropriate. It's hilarious that this is coming from, likely, we can kind of predict, the same people, the right, who pretends like the left is trying to erase history by taking down statues of generals who fought for the side in a war that wanted to keep slavery. Us wanting to not have statues giving respect and honor to someone who fought to keep slavery is erasing history. Actually erasing words from history class is not erasing history. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And it is wild because when we first started seeing this recent wave of book bannings by Republicans in schools and this obsession with critical race theory being in elementary schools, even though it's not, people said they're eventually going to get to slavery and not want to teach slavery at all. And even my response was like, come on, guys, no way. Not even the conservative movement would, again, as I always say, not necessarily all conservatives. I know lots of conservatives who would also think this is crazy, but the far right, I thought, won't even try to do that. But here we go. Okay, I kind of thought they would do it, but I hoped they wouldn't. But here we go. If you're trying to completely get rid of a topic such as slavery from schools, you would start by removing the particular language that, as I said, holds such moral weight, right? And then you would just continue to slowly nudge it all the way out of the books completely. Now we're not even talking about involuntary relocation. Let's just ignore that whole chapter in history class altogether. That is what this definitely is on the way towards. Unbelievable. Now, they have not done it. This is a proposal being made, but the individual who spoke out against it, who's on the board, clearly thought it was a serious enough consideration among her board members that she wanted to speak out against it. If this was just one wacko saying something, hey, let's replace the word, and no one took it seriously, she probably wouldn't have made a deal of it. But because it was being seriously considered by enough of that board, she felt like she had to come out and speak out against it, which shows me they actually, at least some portion of this board, wanted to replace the word slavery with involuntary relocation. Absolutely insane. And this is a reminder that liberals and progressives need to get involved in local politics. Because if it's only the wackos who care about these issues and push their values in these contexts, newsflash, they're going to be the ones winning and implementing their vision of America for us all to live under.